Good morning, entrepreneurs. You are tuned into the Non-Corporate Network. You are watching Entreprenews. We are here to keep you woke on a Friday morning. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube or where else are we, Dustin?
Everywhere. Anywhere where you consume content.
That's true.
Just go search and you'll find us. Just search Entreprenews.
That's true. We'd love to have you check out the podcast. So while you're driving, you can be staying woke, hearing about the top 6 trending small business stories. We debate them for 3 minutes each. That is the show. That is the format. And I am at a loss of additional things to say on this intro. Dustin, are you ready to get going on this episode today?
Yeah, let's dive right in. I'll get my W and we can move on for the day.
So with the first story. Okay.
Amazon Music to surpass Pandora in monthly listeners by 2023. Amazon will increase its monthly listenership by 18.5% this year, which will be about 45.8 million listeners. This accounts for 21.3% of digital audio listeners, according to eMarketer. Amazon will be the second fastest growing digital audio company that eMarketer tracks, right behind Spotify. Over the past few years, Amazon has been ramping up its audio strategy by offering a variety of streaming tiers, and it's included in Amazon Prime. What's more is Amazon announced that it will be reducing its price of Audible services and begin producing exclusive podcasts. With all that being said, I mean, Pandora, it's close, but Spotify is number one. Does Amazon have a chance to surpass Spotify, Chaz?
It is very clear to me what's going to happen here, Dustin. I think that this is it's prediction time for Chaz Vandemeyer. Listen up, people. This is what's going to happen. Pandora is sponsoring the NBA Finals. It's almost like a last-ditch effort for them to be a standalone company. They have been irrelevant in the market, in the streaming game for a few years. They kicked it off and then they're kind of pulled a Skype and fell off to their competitors, Apple Music, Spotify, now Amazon Prime coming up on them. And so what's going to happen here is that Pandora has launched free radio where you don't have any ads playing on the radio stations. You can listen unlimited. They're going to try to keep their business viable and stand alone. Amazon's going to come up, keep gaining speed over the next 6 months to a year, and then they're going to buy them up, and then they're going to grab all their users, and then we're going to have just 3 left. And that is what it's going to look like, Dustin.
Sounds good. And once they buy them, that's going to be a ton of market share. And so I think that'll slingshot them, to pass Spotify. I mean, there are things that I love about Spotify that unless Amazon rolls out, I mean, just the playlists alone, having other people curate them and update on a regular basis, that's awesome. But I mean, Amazon has the financial means to just throw the kitchen sink at it and surpass them. And I mean, do you think they'd eventually buy Spotify? Or?
I think they're going to have to buy somebody. I don't think Spotify is the person or is the company to buy. They're fighting Apple Music right now. They want to be a standalone. But again, thinking about Amazon Music, like here's an Amazon Music song for you. Ready? That is their music streaming right there. Like it's terrible, but it's just a part of their platform. And so, I mean, until they buy Pandora, they're just not going to be viable.
You got a lot of 5-year-old boys that love that type of music.
We got a lot of 5-year-old users or people listening out there. 5-year-old.
Yeah,
shout out.
I mean, the question is, I mean, these numbers are great, but I mean, do you think they're baking in all the people that are signed up for Amazon Prime that have access to audio? I mean, if that's the case, I mean, how does that kind of skew the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, there's like 115 million people that have Amazon Prime, which means that they have 115 million users or however they're going to slice the data. I'd be curious to see how many people are spending more than 30 minutes a day listening on their platform, but we will see. Getting into our next story, Walt Disney World sheds 28,000 jobs at theme parks as the pandemic continues to hurt them. Company blames limited attendance on reopened parks, and they posted a loss of, get ready for this one, Dustin, $4.72 billion in the second quarter. Their stock price has slipped over 7% in the last 30 days. Dustin, will these theme parks ever recover?
Yeah, I think they will. Whether it's a year from now or 5 years from now, I think it's going to be closer to the latter. I think it's a combination of them needing, sanitation and really advertising that. But I think people just need to get used to, what this comeback looks like. People are wanting it. It's just a little scary for most people to go out. So in terms of these parks opening back up and getting to full capacity, it will. Whether we're at 1,000 now and only 500 parks by then, that's another story. I think we're going to see shedding of those parks. Look at our awesome theme park here, Castles and Coasters. Always had 2 or 3 people there at a time, and it finally, once pandemic hit, it died out. But it's kind of going through a whole phase where the cards are going to fall where they fall. Things will close down, but it'll get back.
Well, we talk about if they're going to get back or not. Like, there's just not enough money to be put into it to support keeping the maintenance of the theme park going if you're only going to have 30% capacity. And again, this isn't a matter of legislation at this point and how many people they're allowing back. It's the sheer fact that people don't want to be around a bunch of other people. And if you are in close quarters all day with a bunch of strangers, that is something that we're seeing that people don't want, whether it's airplanes, whether it's theme parks, whether it's in-person events. Even if they do come back in full capacity, Dustin, I don't think they're ever going to get the consumer back behind it. The most that I could see them getting back to full capacity as it relates to like a theme park is, maybe 80 to 85% of what it was. And it's sad, but that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that people are going to lose jobs and whatnot. But what are your thoughts on, hey, you've been huge on virtual reality. What if there's some sort of thing where the family could, I don't know, sit in something either at the mall or
I think that's
there.
a shame. Why that ain't being a human, being a human is going to Disney World and seeing Mickey Mouse. And so it's just like, it's a shame.
You can still go. It's just virtually. You're not around other people. But if people don't want to be around other people, then it's a shame. But it's, people said it was a shame when cars were invented and we're not using horses anymore. But unfortunately, that's the way that things go. It's innovation. It's change.
It'll be a smaller workforce. I think they'll downsize the parks, but if they're not getting as many people in there, they can't afford to keep the entire park open and do maintenance on it and have it be staffed.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but we're rooting for you, Mickey. Good luck. Into our next story. Scorsese, Eastwood say U.S. cinemas may not survive pandemic. In an open letter to the leaders of the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, they said coronavirus pandemic has dealt a devastating blow to movie theaters. Really scary. They said 69% of small and mid-sized movie theater companies will be forced to file bankruptcy without any additional stimulus. Dustin, they also go on to say, and again, this is 70 directors and producers, as well as the National Association of Theater Owners, the Directors Guild of America, Motion Picture Association. These are big players in this space that are all very scared. It seems like that movie theaters are going to go bye-bye and everything's going to become a streamed thing. And so should we be bailing out the movie theaters the same way we bail out airlines? Because a lot of the profitability of their movies and how they can afford these budgets is by releasing them to theaters first and then marking up the exclusivity to streaming platforms from there. So if we're just going direct to streaming platforms, like, I don't know. What do you think? Should we bail them out or what?
I don't know. It's tough. It's the numbers and the article say that there hasn't been an increase in overall theaters. It's kind of plateaued. So it just goes to show that demand isn't going up. Granted, it's not going down. But if people are going to be afraid to go out, go to theme parks, how long are they going to be afraid to go to movie theaters? And if that's the case, how much are we going to throw at them to bail them out when all in all, they're going to fail anyway, in the next couple years? It's tough because, again, it's not good when anyone loses their job. But when something like this happens, it creates innovation. Why can't it go to all streaming? Or, there's a ton of different ways that you can, roll this out. But there's too many movie stars, filmmakers, and all that just make too much money from creating content that, because it's not shown in a theater, that's not going to be the hurdle that just depletes all new content
I'll tell you,
creation.
Who doesn't make too much money is the person that's working in the movie theater. And you think about it, how many people does it take to drop the audio or the video file of the movie onto the Netflix platform compared to somebody scooping popcorn, somebody cleaning the theater, somebody serving you your tickets, somebody bringing you your food? So it's something where it's really disappointing to me because we've seen this phase change of movie theaters go from, everybody shoulder to shoulder to these recliners, and you eat and you drink beer in the theater. And now it seems that it's all just going to go poof. And it's going to be something that, that maybe there's one theater in a 50-mile radius from you. And that's just disappointing to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it comes down to demand. I mean, it all sounds great, and it would be horrible if that goes away. But if the demand isn't there and people don't want to go, you can't really do that. And again, it's people still want new content, though. Yeah. And so it's just a matter of how you deliver that. I mean, going back to virtual reality, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that you can do where it feels like you're in a theater, that you can still give theaters exclusivity. They're the one, AMC,
what a shame
whatever.
For the kids, though, dude. Like, we're closing down
our parents said the same thing on
World.
MySpace. It's a shame these kids had to be on MySpace, but you know what?
Closing Disney, closing the theaters. What's next? You can't eat candy anymore. All the candy manufacturers are going to be gone too, and then you're not even going to be able to be a kid. You're going to be born as a 4-year-old.
Healthcare costs will come down because we have less implications as those kids grow up. But another story there.
Oh gosh. Well, I'll tell you before we get on our next story, I want to mention that we were powered by State 48. Dustin and I got the State 48 drip on today, man. This thing is like massaging my skin. I feel great. I'm already feeling like I'm going to have a great day just because of this amazing shirt. But, more than the EIC collab, the collabs that are even more important are the ones they're doing with nonprofits, the support that they're showing to, even better causes than EIC, which we're a pretty good cause. But Dustin, do you have anything you want to mention?
No, just make sure to check them out. I mean, they're big on creating clothing for all that is inspired by Arizona. And as Chaz mentioned, they've done a lot of great collaborations with a lot of nonprofits where they're donating a big chunk of their proceeds to that nonprofit. Yep. So not only are they making super comfortable clothing, but they're also giving back to the community. So super awesome company. Yep. Make sure to check them out, state48.com.
Well, speaking of the community, another story here locally in Arizona, Intel's $7 billion expansion into Chandler is finally operational, making it the chipmaker's largest U.S. factory, overtaking Oregon and a few others in the U.S. 900,000 square feet, Dustin. This is big, but what I'll say here is that Intel has a 15.5% market share in the semiconductor space. Compared to Samsung's $208 billion. So Samsung is roughly about 44% market share. I'm wondering, Dustin, what do you think? Are they gaining momentum or losing it? Because Apple came out and said they're no longer going to be using Intel chips, which is about a $3.5 billion hit to their revenue. And over the last 2 years, they've grown less than 3.5 billion, growing, I think, last year by only $1 billion. So what do you think this does for Intel? Do you think that this can get them to catch some more momentum, or is Samsung going to keep hammering them?
I mean, in terms of growth or non-growth, it's tough because I know that, the current administration is working hard on, defining laws on the semiconductor business, on how much can be imported, exported, and all that. Right. I mean, granted, their domestic revenue might either plateau or shrink, but I mean, as third world countries and other countries are catching up with technology, they're going to have a need for this, and we could be a huge exporter. And, and I mean, as you mentioned, there's only a couple of players in the space, and we've been huge on talking about monopolies. And so I don't think the government would allow them to shut down, because then you'd only have 2 players in the space, and it'd be more of a monopoly type of industry. Yeah. But I will say, I mean, I love hearing this in Arizona. Definitely brings jobs and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, the cost of doing business is much better here than most other states. And so they might find some efficiencies, or it might help with cash flow, which they can invest into R&D. That's true. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the marketplace looks like, because I mean, do you know if Apple is creating it solely for them, or are they planning on getting into the space and selling their chips to other companies, which now you have more players in the space? And then if that's the case, then I could see Intel, falling by the wayside, while we still have the same amount of players. I mean, what are your thoughts? Yeah,
I mean, Apple's sitting on 3 times the cash that Intel makes on a yearly basis, pre-tax. So they could probably make their own Intel company in 5 seconds if they wanted to. I don't know. I think that it's a strategic investment into the United States, where, like you mentioned, traditionally a lot of the semiconductor exports are coming from China, being manufactured much less expensive there. And so because we're kind of severing that tie, I think that it gives an opportunity for US-based manufacturing of these semiconductor products. And so, I think they're well positioned. Well, it'll be interesting to see how this whole Apple loss is going to affect them.
Yeah. Good for Arizona, though, for bringing them here.
Amen.
On to our next story. U.S. employment growth has slowed down in September compared to the previous month, but unemployment rates have also dropped to 7.9%. Last month, the U.S. added 661,000 jobs, which is down from the previous month at 1.48 million. The estimate for last month was 850,000 jobs, so we were just shy of the estimate. All that being said, I mean, like I mentioned, unemployment is now at 7.9%, which is actually the exact same unemployment rate during the 2016 elections. Unemployment in August was at 8.4%. And so definitely made some headway there. You know, with unemployment being the exact same thing in 2016, everyone was shouting and hooting and hollering that the economy was great. And, you know, comparative, we're the exact same place we were 4 years ago. So are we in such a bad position as an economy? Are we heading the right direction? Or what are your thoughts on just these numbers, Chaz?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You know, I wonder how many of these jobs are sustainable. A lot of the jobs that are being created are temporary. And I think that, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because I think that we saw a big spike in people going back to work as soon as the unemployment ended. And so it's just kind of like, okay, we're seeing really the true people that are unemployed now, compared to the people that maybe were just kind of riding out unemployment until now. And so I think this at least gives us a real perspective of what is we're not telling ourselves fairy tales anymore of who's unemployed and who isn't. So, I mean, I guess it at least gives us a benchmark now that we didn't have before. But, you know, it's hard. I mean, it's interesting. It's the same as 4 years ago, and it fluctuates between, like, you know, 9 and 5% traditionally. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how this continues to be adjusted leading into the election, because it's obviously a big point as it relates to, you know, the presidential race.
You know, what's interesting is this morning I was watching and they showed a chart by month, the unemployment rate. And as soon as the $600 a week, you know, was done, all of a sudden unemployment rate just drops. And so that being said, I mean, there's a lot of talks with stimulus going on, you know, over on Capitol Hill. Knowing that unemployment rates dropped, I mean, is that a sign of the economy doing better, or people just going, oh, now I don't have the free money, I got to go get a job? So, I mean, should we be looking at increasing that unemployment rate or trying to figure out how to incentivize that hiring, which I am so big on?
The thing that I'm so concerned about is that, you know, a lot of people are now underemployed, right? They're overqualified for the job they're doing. They're somebody that's a computer programmer, or somebody that is driving Uber. It's like, these are the kind of problems that we're having now, where it doesn't matter that they don't have a job. They have a job that's not supporting them, and that they're not being compensated to a level to take care of their family the way that they were beforehand. And so those things aren't a part of the statistics that we look at when we go 7.9%, as well as the people that are exiting the job force entirely. Those are not part of the statistics. And so I think that, again, you know, I just said we have a more real benchmark, but again, you know, things like that, I think, are another piece that we're just not paying attention to.
It'd be interesting to see the unemployment rate correlated with household incomes.
So true.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Those are the kind of stats that we need to be focusing on, the media. Come on. That's why you're over here at Non-Corporate Network, because we are about those stats and not just the headline to get you to look at it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, just keeping on with unemployment rates and how things are bouncing back. Let's bring it back home to Arizona. Arizona cities among top 20 for bouncing back. They looked at basically labor statistics in each of the states and looking at unemployment rates, how things are coming back. And really, Arizona has 8 of the top 20 cities across America, with Gilbert at number 2, Peoria at number 5, Chandler at 7, Mesa at 10, Scottsdale at 12, Tempe at 15, Glendale at 18, and Tucson at 20. All that being said, I know it's, you know, that Arizona accounts for 40% of the top 20 cities that are bouncing back. You know, the nation criticized us for coming back too soon, not wearing masks and whatnot. I mean, did that help with this bounce back, or is it because now we're mandating masks across? I mean, what do these numbers mean?
I don't think it has anything to do with the masks. I'll tell you what I think it has to do with the fact that a lot of people are moving here. I don't think it's necessarily that more people are getting jobs here. I mean, I'd venture to say that, you know, Chandler at number 7, that probably had something to do with Intel. Right. And Gilbert is, you know, just becoming a powerhouse right now. It's incredible to see the growth over there. And so, you know, I think that part of it is that, you know, there's over 160 families moving here a day. And it's something where the more people there are, the more stimulus there's going to be, the more competition there's going to be into the economies here statewide. But again, you know, more competition makes it, you know, jobs are scarce. So I wonder how this correlates to, you know, non-population fluctuation kind of, I don't know what stat you'd look at there, but it's
per
like,
capita maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say, man, I am just so excited for this because it's, I mean, every time I bring anything up in Arizona when it comes to companies moving here, employment, whatever it may be, I mean, it's just Arizona continues to make the headlines of
40% of 20. Here. Yeah, 40% is, that's an uncanny number. I mean, compared, like, there's 50 states and 40% of the top 20 are all in one of those states. Like, it's humbling to be a part of this growth, and I think that it's only going to get bigger. You know, you talk about it all the time that we're becoming a little bit of a mecca out here, and
number one, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the high rise, it's the demise of the high rise. You know, that'd be a good headline for this episode. But I think that, you know, seriously, people are moving out of these places in droves and moving into a more open environment. It's great weather. It's more effective in terms of cost, and you know, a lot of companies are moving here. Like, there's just so many things trending for us that I just want to see the venture dollars pop up with it. You know, that's the biggest thing.
I'm sure there's a little bit of a lag and it'll happen, but I mean, you got manufacturing that brings a ton of jobs, and you got technology. We're bringing technology manufacturing here, and that's huge. I mean, you got Google, you got Intel, you got DoorDash, which is another technology company.
Got all those EV, electronic vehicle companies that we talk about are out here. I mean, you know, it's exciting. It's definitely exciting. A huge labor pool too.
I applaud the Arizona government. I mean, they made it a way to make, you know, coming to Arizona incentivize and look sexy. And I love it. I love it.
Amen. Well, you know, looking back on the stories, man, open up, let's go to Disney World, man. Let's go to Disney World. You know, that's the greatest place on earth. And we could all use a little bit of Disney World in our lives. Even we got to hold a 6-foot pole and make sure nobody comes near us, you know. Would hate to see that struggle any more than it already has.
Maybe a company trip to Disney World is in our near future. No, my favorite was the Arizona numbers. I mean, it's amazing that we account for 40% of the top 20 cities that are bouncing back. Cool. I'm an Arizona native, so I love Arizona. I'm proud of it and excited to see the growth that's happening, and just excited to see what the future looks like for our wonderful state.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, you got to tell a business owner about us if you made it this far. We're keeping you guys woke. We appreciate you guys spreading the word about what we're doing here over at the Non-Corporate Network, the worldwide leader in entrepreneurship. This was Entreprenews. Again, my name is Chaz Vandemotter.
Dustin Trout.
You have anything else you want to add to that glorious sign off other than apologizing to the people for just not quite getting there and beating me today? One day, Dustin.
It's subjective. It's subjective. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. I mean, make sure to search us on all channels that you consume content. We'll be there. So you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday.
Peace.